So before we dive into our agenda, just a couple points for the good of the order. One, there was I think it was a week ago. Time sometimes becomes a blur after a while, but I believe it was last week. There was board training by Dan Clark from the MSU Local Government Center. If you get a chance, I believe it was recorded. I would highly recommend folks either on the line here or other of your colleagues in the community councils to take a look at that. Those are always great events, a lot of good information. I was able to make some introductory remarks at that, and one of the things I mentioned, and it does not is probably not said enough, and that is thanks to all of you for your service on community councils. For many folks in the community, all of you and the work that you do in your community councils is maybe the only interaction that they have with local government, because you all are a part of local government. You're an extension of Missoula County government, not to be confused with a town council or city council or any other sort of organization. You're an important advisory element to the Board of County Commissioners, and for many folks, you are ambassadors of Missoula County and the only face of government that they'll ever see. So it's important work that you do. Thank you for that. The other thing I would mention, from time to time, we hear from members of the public at community council meetings. Where are the commissioners at these things? Well, just an offer, if we are ever asked to be at a community council, we will be there, but it's a very deliberate decision on our part not to be hovering over and be present at all community council meetings, because I think we all recognize, certainly I've experienced this, where the presence of an elected official or a commissioner in the room changes the dynamic of the conversation, and not always in the best of way if you're looking at some more free interchange with members of the public. So again, we'll always be willing to visit in person when appropriate, which may not be now given the situation with COVID. So with that, I think we're going to pivot into our number of speakers that we have today. And ladies and gentlemen, it is grim with COVID. We are reaching some all-time highs in case counts and all-time lows in terms of the tragedy of this situation we're living through. I wish I had better news, and maybe Cindy does, but I'm guessing probably not. So Cindy Farr, why don't you fill us in?
Hey, Dave, before you go, I just want to say I'm technologically present, so I'll be able to do stuff later. I just had to find the right young person now.
Yeah, it's good that you had your support team there available for you.
It's very, very important. All right, so I'm gonna video off so Cindy can do her thing.
Okay, very good, Cindy.
All right, hi everybody. So yes, I think Dave, you put it very clearly. We're in a place in this pandemic that we have not been in before, where we are seeing record numbers of cases, record numbers of close contacts. I'm sharing my screen so you can all see the Missoula County data dashboard. This is on our MissoulaInfo.com website. At this point, one question that I've been getting asked a lot is, when are we going to start seeing the case numbers going down? And we don't know when the case numbers are going to start going down, without having any way to mitigate, and really relying on the community to do the right thing and wear masks and stay home when they're sick, and try to keep your social circles small and get vaccinated. We're really just relying on the community to do the right thing so that we can come out of this big spike that we're in. So for those of you that are on the computer, or you can see the screen, you can see that you can see where we're at in this big spike. You can also see that the cases are really pretty evenly divided among the age groups, except in the older age groups. We've got fewer in the 70s and 80s than we do in anything else, but we're definitely seeing it spread all throughout the age groups. So this is our goal area of 25. You can see we're far, far above 25. We're at 88 average daily new cases per 100,000 people in the last 7 days. I actually expect that that number is going to go up again tomorrow. I think the highest we've been was yesterday at 7-day average of 94. But we've been getting in. Yesterday we had 164 new cases. Today we had 105. So I do expect that that number is going to keep going up. This is our 3-day average of hospitalizations. We have been breaking records every day for how many people we have hospitalized right now. And then we just added this last graph. So some of you may not have been aware of this, but this is our 7-day rolling average of breakthrough cases as opposed to people that are unvaccinated. So you can see that people that are not vaccinated have about a 3 times greater chance of catching COVID. So right now, I can tell you that we are definitely buried with case investigation. It's taking at least a few days to get through all of the phone calls to new cases, and we've got about 500 cases that have to get called right now still. And then we've got an additional 500 close contacts that we're trying to get through. So with the numbers of cases and close contacts that are coming in, we're definitely buried at the health department. So that is kind of the general update that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from folks. If you're on the phone, you can hit *6 to unmute yourself and start talking, or if you're via internet, on the internet via Microsoft Teams, raise your hand. And we have our first hand raised. Emily.
Number one, thank you for your continued transparency and what you guys are doing in the community and trying to be as much well-informed. I own a business and it works in healthcare as physical therapy in Sanders County, which is not the best place to be right now. So I appreciate Missoula and their work because I feel like it's doing a better job in many ways. So, but besides that, so looking at some of the stuff coming out with 5 to 11 years olds, potentially soon, do you have any plans in place, and what kind of is that looking like? Or tentative plans in place?
Yep. So we actually do have tentative plans in place. We right now are able to give about 500 doses of vaccine a day at our Southgate Mall location. And so we do intend to continue that. We could, with a little bit of additional staffing, be able to give around 1,000 doses a day. And that's about where we were at when we were at the peak when the vaccine first became available to the general public. So we are well prepared for, the FDA did just make their decision today that they're opening up booster doses for older people that are over 65. And we're definitely prepared. We have to, now that we've got the approval, we have to wait for the CDC guidance to come out, and then we'll update our standing orders, and then we'll be able to start giving those booster doses. And the same will happen whenever they open it up for kids. So we're definitely prepared to get those out, and we'll also probably continue to do community events and outreach to try and get as many people vaccinated as we can.
With the just being the Pfizer dose, is it required that you have to have had Pfizer as the original one? Or if you had Moderna, the Pfizer booster is acceptable?
I believe that it has to have been Pfizer, but that is one of the guidance pieces that we're waiting for the CDC to come out with.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Go ahead, Tom, you're muted.
Oh, great.
Damon
Thanks,
with the West
Dave.
Valley Community Council.
Oh, I'm sorry, who was that talking?
So Damon with the West Valley Community Council. Hey, is there a correlation with the Montana Grizzly game the other week and with the game this Saturday? Are we expecting a real big problem? And is there an effort to just keep fans away to prevent a super spreader event?
So right now, we do suspect that some of our cases are resulting from the last big Grizz game, and we do know that there's a lot of people that are going to be coming into town and partaking in the homecoming events this weekend. But it's really hard to say for sure if it's contributing, significantly to the increase in cases, simply because it's so out there in the community that it's sometimes really hard to pin down where someone may have gotten it. But we definitely have concern at the health department that, as people are going to be crowding around and going to homecoming events and going to the Grizz game, we're just trying to encourage people to, again, keep your pods of people small, try to only interact with people that, within a small circle, wear a mask, try to be, get vaccinated, try and convince your friends and family to get vaccinated, because we really don't have the ability to put any kind of mitigation measures in place at this point.
Thanks, Cindy. That's an important point, is that we simply do not any longer have the ability to regulate in a manner that would limit crowd sizes and such. So it is sadly the best that we can do in the face of uncontrollable spread is to encourage folks to do the right thing. Tom?
Great, thanks, Dave. Cindy, up here in the Sealy area, we have kind of an unusual mix of people with unusual opinions, but I like your stats of the breakthrough versus the non-vaccinated. I think it helps in some of our discussions. Do you have any sense of the severity of how COVID impacted them, breakthrough versus non-vaccinated?
Yeah, what we're finding out through our case investigation is that people who have been vaccinated in general tend to have much milder symptoms. In fact, I was told yesterday when I was talking to someone that had a breakthrough case of COVID that she just felt like she had a little bit of a cold. But then I've also talked to people that were unvaccinated that felt like they got hit by a Mack truck. I mean, it's definitely, people are getting significantly less sick if they've been vaccinated.
Thanks. Other questions for Cindy? No. Bert, I can see your lip quivering. There must be something you want to ask.
I just turned on my microphone to say something, so that works. Cindy, it's always a pleasure. You may not bring us good news, but you always bring us the current status, and that's helpful. It's always helpful. So thank you. That's what my lip was quivering for.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
Bert.
you're welcome. I'm always happy to be here and help let you guys know what the current picture is.
Other questions from folks? Comments? Okay, well, I guess on a related COVID front, Missoula County is moving back into the all virtual meeting realm, and we're going to be dispensing with our hybrid meetings given the current level of the crisis that we're in here, to be erring on the side of caution. Okay, with that, thanks, Cindy, as always. And next, we have Jordan Lyons with us. Jordan is our housing specialist for Missoula County. He's going to update us on our draft housing strategy plan. Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Strohmeyer. Always good to be here. And, I've been making the rounds to community councils recently. So I do have some new information and graphics that I tried to sprinkle into my presentation here, so hopefully it's not a total rerun for folks, but if there's a little bit of repetition, I hope you'll bear with me. I'm Jordan Lyons. I'm Missoula County's housing specialist. I started in February, and I'm working with Echo Northwest consultants that Missoula County contracted to develop a housing action plan, and I just have a couple of slides I'll show you. If you all have questions for me, if you raise your hands or anything like that, I'll be glad to answer, and I want to give you all plenty of time at the end also for questions. So, so like I said, we're developing our housing action plan. I want to talk about a little bit of what's gone into that. This type of plan, it's not something that comes from on high. It's not something that comes out of a supercomputer or something. It really comes from talking with folks in our community and really finding out what's going on. And, you know, we all have experiences. We all know that housing affordability is a big problem, but we're trying to go a little further than that, have some, have a lot of conversations and have some deep conversations about it. So some things we did in our process for this, to develop this plan. We asked questions about housing on our community needs assessment. And that's something we do every year. We had 887 responses this year, which was great. We also put together a steering committee that included developers, nonprofits, and community leaders from all over Missoula County. And we did a lot of stakeholder engagement. So we had one-on-one meetings with different types of stakeholders. And we also had some group meetings. Like I said, I've been to a couple of community councils over the last few weeks. So that's been great. And I want to share with you some of the things that we've found out that you're gonna see in our action plan. So one thing our consultants kind of try to do is kind of put a number on, like we know, you know, basically housing is too expensive. Supply is a big factor in that. We don't have enough units of housing, and basically what they found is to try to put a number on it is, as of 2019. Missoula County has about 2,400 fewer units than we really need. And so so I think that's really interesting. I mean, that's really stark, but I feel really good to be able to put a little bit of a number on that. And one way they show that here too, if you look at this red number, this 1.09, is to have an appropriate supply of housing, you really need about 1.14 units for every person. So for every household. So you need a little bit more housing than you have households, which makes sense, right? Because you know, every unit is not available right now, like all the time. Sometimes units are for sale, or they're vacant on the rental market, and you need that to just kind of have a little bit of wiggle room for people to be. You know, there to be enough supply that people are not priced out. And we just don't have that. We only have 1.09 units per household. So that ratio is just not where we need it to be. And one thing they found too, you know, we've all seen this, you can just see this in the headlines, that, you know, for a long time, housing affordability has been a problem in Missoula County, and it's kind of worse than ever right now. So they have this in 2010. The median home was about $200,500, and now the median's about $420,000. And one thing I wanted to get last time, if you've seen this presentation before, I didn't have this, but I think it's just important to show too that that's not a straight line, right? It's not just something that has just gradually crept up. It looks more like a hockey stick, right? So affordability has been a challenge that's just kind of gone on year in, year out. But in recent years, it's really ticked up, and since the pandemic, I think we've all seen that, you know, prices are going like almost vertical. So it's, you know, and we don't know if that's going to continue, but it's a really troubling trend right now, that's for sure. So that's some things we found about the conditions. We also, in the action plan, kind of explore Missoula County's different roles, how we can interact with the housing market. And this is just kind of a graphic from our updated draft. So, you know, some things we do to engage with housing currently, we have the power for land use planning and development regulation that enables housing production of all types in appropriate areas outside the city of Missoula. So of course, the city has its own planning and zoning. We provide social service and housing funding, supporting local nonprofit housing providers as they work to meet the needs of county residents. So we have things like the Community Assistance Fund, programs that help low to moderate income people pay rent and buy homes. And we serve and can convene multiple communities, leaders, private sector leaders, nonprofits, and other stakeholders to advance collaborative solutions. So those are kind of three very general areas, things Missoula County can do. And so working together to develop the action plan, we kind of developed goals that are related to those. So we can use the county's toolkit to increase housing supply, including zoning, infrastructure development, and land owned by the county. We can expand programs and funding to help people access and stay in stable housing. And then we can build implementation capacity through strong partnerships and administrative functions. So we can work together with the city, nonprofits, advocate to the state and the federal government. And then under each of those goals, we have actions. And so there are a lot of actions. There are over 20. And so we just kind of highlighted a few of them here. And so these are some of the recommended actions. And so some of those included enabling unit production by providing infrastructure, increasing funding capacity for dedicated affordable units, helping people buy homes with down payment assistance, better serving low-income renters with rental assistance and services, understanding the impacts of short-term rentals and second homes. So that would be like especially vacation rentals like Airbnb and Vrbo would be some of those short-term rentals. And help the state and federal government better serve housing needs. So those are just kind of a few highlights. The next steps, our action plan will be available soon, and the ultimate process is it will go through hearings, and there will be an opportunity for public comment. Eventually, it'll go to the planning board. And what we're ultimately looking at is adopting it as an issue plan attached to our growth policy, amending our growth policy. So it's really kind of something that's really, really memorialized, really a serious, significant plan Missoula County has to address this issue. But before we get there, it's really important at every phase that we collect feedback from the public. And so that's kind of my next step that I'm working on right now. Next month, we'll be looking for feedback from the public, and we'll just have a form you can fill out. That'll be on the housing webpage of Missoula County, which you can get to by going to missoula.co/housing. And probably around October 8th, when we've got a couple of finishing touches on our public draft, that'll be available there. If you'd like to get updates on it, at that page, you can sign up for email updates, or you can also see you can get right to that page by following this link, this eepearl.com. But the easiest way is probably just to go to missoula.co/housing. I put these links in the chat last time too, and I'd be glad to do that also. And then I'd encourage you to you can reach out to me anytime. Email is easiest, and I'm at jlyons@missoulacounty.us. So that's just kind of a quick overview. And I would love if anyone has any questions, and some of you I just saw like last week, so maybe you have a follow-up question for me.
Well, and Jordan, while folks are formulating their questions, why don't you go ahead and put those links in the chat again?
Absolutely.
Any questions for Jordan?
Yeah. Hey, this is Damon with the West Valley Community Council. Hey, so just a heads up, there's 2 home builders I know, and they complain and say, well, I've got houses I can build, but I'm still waiting on environmental surveys and the county itself. So I think that could be some backlash if we're not careful, as they can say, hey, this is a self-inflicted wound by the county. Home builders are ready to build, but they're being held up. So you don't have to answer that for me, but I know 2 home builders are complaining about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And we do have a recommendation in there. I should have gotten that into those kind of high points, because we do have a recommendation to improve the efficiency and just make sure that we're doing everything we can do to make sure that units are getting built and that we're not putting up any unnecessary barriers that aren't providing any public value.
And Damon, I would just suggest if you hear that from folks, tell them to reach out to us, because the more specifics we have, the better we can know what we may need to address. It may not be related to what you're talking about, but I know we've also had a real challenge hiring inspectors. It's been rough to keep fully staffed, which is creating some bottlenecks for us, but we're doing the best we can. Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Paul.
We can't hear you, Josh.
Thank you. So, Damon, I want to reiterate what Dave said. Please tell your friends to reach out to us tomorrow. Behind every impediment, there is a story. So we'd love to know what the story is. Is it that they couldn't get an inspector? Because for a while, we had 4 out of 6 inspectors down with COVID. And then for a while, we didn't have enough inspectors. So I don't think we're fully staffed up yet. Or is it something else where we can intervene and move things along? It's just saying, oh, it's terrible. They suck over there. It doesn't help. Like we need a specific, and then we will do our absolute darndest to unplug that bottleneck. But we really need to know what exactly the bottleneck is. But you can text me tomorrow if you find out.
I'll find out.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and yeah, please do
Damon's
reach
got
out.
my phone number, I think.
Okay. And Violet, yeah, if you want to put contact info in the chat.
Yeah, I don't phone and email is fine. Put mine in there. I don't care.
Josh prefers phone calls between 2 and 3 a.m. That's the best time to reach him. So
actually, the very best is text. I can get you back to you much faster. Don't leave a voice message. Leave a text. I'll get back to you as quick as I can.
thanks for that question or comment. Other questions, comments for Jordan?
Jordan, this is Tom. I have one. We were fortunate to have him at our June meeting, and we liked that. We had some lively discussion. What is the relationship of Homeward to Missoula County? Because we were going to have Alex on, and then he needed to reschedule. So where do they fit into all of this?
So Alex's program received some funding from Missoula County, and that's through the Community Assistance Fund. And I know, and someone else might be a little more up to date on that, because I know there are like some kind of recent developments on that. Well,
I guess I would say that the short answer to your question, Tom, is they are not a part of Missoula County government. They're an independent nonprofit. Although, like Jordan says, we do provide some level of support for programming and staffing for Homeward.
I had something for Jordan. Well, it was a couple months ago. You had a panel of experts from, let's see, Portland, San Diego. I thought that was very helpful. They had great questions, and I hope there was good input. So I appreciate you reaching out and including me on that. That was for me in the real estate part of the housing crisis. It was actually helpful to hear their questions to me and realize the big picture. We're all working on the same thing.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. It was great to have your input too.
Good.
Thanks, Kevin. Other questions or comments? Okay. Well, thanks, Jordan, for the update. And I suspect there will be, as you mentioned, more opportunities for both public input and for having you back at these events to update us on the process.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Nice to see everybody.
You bet. Okay, now the reason why everyone was here, undoubtedly, marijuana tax. And I think our very own Commissioner Josh Slotnick, if he's still with us, is going to bring us up to speed on where this sits and what will be appearing on the November ballot. Josh.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. And for the record, I'm excited about this because I'm excited about fixing taxes. I'm not necessarily excited about marijuana. So it's just to be clear. So for anybody who's put any time into our tax system, you would most likely agree that it's kind of broken. We're in a situation right now, the part of it that bugs me the most is that we have a small amount of taxpayers creating services for a very large amount of people. So we have close to 120,000 people in Missoula County. This year we could see 2 million guests. Those guests don't pay anything into the system that covers the cost of the services they use. I'm thinking about things like roads, 911, or even interacting with people who had the benefit of going to our good school. So Our property tax system is out of whack there. The burden is too heavy on the folks who pay it. And we don't have any other tools in local government to generate revenue to provide services. Most everywhere else in America has other things besides the property tax. That's pretty much all we got. We tried a gas tax, it worked for about 10 minutes, the legislature took it away. This one the legislature has given us. So what that means is in November on your ballot, you'll be given two options. One option is to say yes or no to a 3% tax on medicinal marijuana. Second question is you could say yes or no to a 3% tax on recreational marijuana. On medicinal marijuana, the state already has a 4% tax, so if you say yes, it ends up at a 7% tax. On recreational, the state's going to have a 20% tax, so it would be 23%. The big deal for us on this is that we expect it would generate a little more than $700,000, and that gets split between the city and the county. The county gets 50%, city gets 45%, and the state gets another 5%. So that would leave us at the county with $300,000. And our intent right now is to use that to address housing and to generally keep the growth of property taxes down. It's a bit of a guess because that's what the projections are for how much will be generated, but given that we've never done it before, we don't know. I just wanted to make sure y'all knew this was on your ballot and answer any questions. So please hit me up with some questions if you like.
Thanks, Josh. And just to be clear, and I think Josh has been crystal clear on this, this will be a question coming before the voters in Missoula County. It will not be determined by the Board of County Commissioners, but the electorate will have the say on this.
Yeah, on your ballot, November 2nd, you get to decide.
Questions for Josh or any of us, or comments?
Come on down to Imagination at 6 p.m. tomorrow.
Yes, we will be doing we'll be talking more about this and have a bit of an encore performance, and you can wet your parched throat while listening to this, which you may not be able to do right now. So, questions?
It is Damon with the West Valley Community Council. Hey. In that 700,000, this being marijuana's cash only, do we suspect that we're going to miss a lot of taxes on being cash only where businesses are not reporting it?
I don't know. I don't know to what degree the state is auditing these businesses. I do expect I don't think it's going to be too long from now that the federal government, they're not necessarily going to legalize marijuana nationally, but I think they're going to become more relaxed on the banking laws, because in too many states, you have too many small businesses with huge amounts of cash, and it's just dangerous and not good for them and not good for our banking system. But there is the potential for fraud. You're correct. But this isn't anything we can do about here at Missoula County. This is a federal law on banking and marijuana.
Yeah, I think as we know in other areas of life, there will be folks who try to cut corners and shortchange others.
Yeah, if we can learn from other states, Colorado and Washington being the two that are our closest neighbors in this, have experienced great boons in revenue due to marijuana. So even if there is recreational marijuana, so even if there is fraud, they've been able to raise tax revenue and relax a bit of the burden on citizens for everything from schools to fire districts to roads to 911, to all the things that we do. So yeah, there may be fraud, but if Colorado and Washington are anything like Montana, we will also see a bunch of money.
Other questions? Okay, well, don't hesitate to reach out if you do have any questions after the fact, or as my colleagues mentioned, we will be reconvening on this topic at Imagination Brewing tomorrow to discuss it again.
Yeah, one last thing I might throw out, because people may have wondered this and didn't ask. Stores that sell medicinal marijuana right now will be allowed to sell recreational marijuana for 18 months after January 1st. During that 18 months, no other new stores can open up to sell recreational marijuana. And then after that, it'll be much more wide open. And I'm imagining within that 18-month time frame, we will take this up in terms of zoning, as will the city.
And
so there isn't a weed shop on every corner.
And Josh, maybe you said this earlier, but is it the case that Missoula County will get 50% of the cut, the city of Missoula 45%, and the state of Montana 5%?
Correct. Yep, to DPHHS. Yeah. Yep. And yeah, there you go. All right. Well, thanks for hearing me out on this.
Thanks. Kevin, did you have a question? No? Okay. All right. And it looks like Violet Plummer is going to talk to us about board member references. I'm not even sure what this means.
Yeah, well, Dave, you kind of alluded to it at the start. There was recently a board training for all people that are members of Missoula County boards. We do record those, so if you couldn't make it to the training, or if you just like to learn at your own pace, you can always reference back to those videos. And there's also a bunch of other board resources too. So what I'm going to do is drop a link in the chat to a folder that should have all of that good stuff in there for you guys. So I just wanted to kind of put a reminder that that is out there. And then also, Josh, not to put you on the spot, you don't have to speak to this at all, but I also just wanted to say that the Missoula County Food Policy Advisory Board is doing a community food assessment, and I will be posting a link in the chat to a survey for that assessment, and also to a web page that sort of describes the project a little. Josh, I don't know if you want to add anything about it.
Sure, I would love it if people took a moment and checked in on that. Basically, we're trying to figure out, to what degree does everyone in Missoula County have access to high quality food? And we would love to know what you think about that. We'd also love to know what you think about the availability of farmland and where we are in terms of development and preserving farmland. We want to know what you think. That's why we're asking. So if you have a moment, please let us know.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah. All those links are in the chat, but as I usually do, I'll send out my follow-up email after the meeting and make sure all the links are in there too. So everybody and all the community councils, even those that aren't attending, can have them. But yeah, I think that's kind of all I wanted to go over on that front.
Thanks, Violet. That's great information to have. So segueing into our round robin of community councils, and just the opportunity for folks who are on the meeting here and the call tonight to be able to give an update of what's happening in their particular councils. Violet, do you just want to walk us through of the folks who are here, call out the community councils, and whoever wants to can chime in.
Yeah, you bet. Let's go alphabetically. And start with Bonner Milltown. Bert and Emily are both here. Any updates or questions?
Actually, I think Emily left. She had something she had to go do.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, we've got, obviously, we've got the Bonner Mill, I'm trying to think of, repository, okay? 78. I lose words from time to time. So,
at least you didn't call it a suppository, so yeah, you're not totally losing it, Bert.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. But anyway, it seems that is near the finish line. They're cleaning out the basement of a building that was under the repository. Probably got a little bit longer to go on it, but that's clean. And I think Steve and Mike are now looking for somebody to tell them to build a building in that 2.5 acres so that they can have another client customer. And hopefully somebody from Bonner would get hired. The other one is the bus line, Mountain Line is working on their stops out here. There are a number of stops on different maps. None of which are real. Even the stops on Mountain Line's map is a little bit in error. So they are working to upgrade their stops out here, actually put signs on them and put them in appropriate places that have a good place for people to stand and wait on and get off the bus when they come to a stop. So other than that, yeah, Bonner's doing fairly well.
Thanks, Bert. Lee Bridges emailed me that she would not be able to make it this evening. So unless I'm mistaken, I don't think we have anyone from East Missoula on the call. But we'll go down to Lolo. Kevin, any updates from Lolo or any questions?
Let's see, Lolo, we're still pretty excited. There's some neat things happening for our school. We've had a couple new businesses open up in Lolo, so that's exciting. We've got a lot of movement, a lot of things going on, mostly all good stuff. So that's it. I appreciate these. And I got a shout out to Bert. He reached out to me after our last meeting and said, Kevin, we miss you. Where have you been? What's going on? So it's football season. I referee high school football, so I made a point to be here tonight. So thank you guys. Thank you.
I appreciate your effort.
Good stuff. Teamwork.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Bert. Let's see. Let's go down to Seeley Lake. Tom.
So Seeley Lake, in our November council meeting, because of our demographic up here and concern about some of our seniors' needs, are they met, not being met, we're going to dedicate that meeting called a senior symposium. So we're lining up Missoula Aging Services. Commissioner Vero has agreed to join. So if any of you think about whether they're programs, housing related, nutrition, iRide, these things that some of which are county and controlled, but some of which are volunteer, that's going to be our focus of the November meeting. We think it's good because in talking to the senior center folks here and some other people, beginning of the holiday season, there can be a fair amount of depression among seniors, particularly those who live alone. So that'll be our November meeting. Question I have for any of you out there kind of administratively, our October meeting coincides with Columbus Day, which is a county holiday. So should we change it? Can we change it? Is one of the things on our agenda will be the new bylaws. Any thoughts on that?
I do not. I guess I would be of the mind that it's, well, Juanita.
I think we have Chris Lounsbury lurking in the background, so maybe is Chris there to guide us? Can we change that date or what? We'll get back to you.
Sorry, have to get to the unmute. So yes, I mean, you can move it. You just need to provide notice as far as the date of the meeting.
But Tom, is what you were saying is that you would like to have it on that date?
We would like to have it, but since obviously some of our presenters are always from the county and it's a holiday, I guess there's sort of a hidden question, like if we invited someone from Missoula County, could they join, or would that be some kind of breach for their work rules?
I would say don't count on anyone from Missoula County to participate on the event on that day, since it is a federal holiday. So if you're relying on county staff to be presenters, then you might want to think about picking a different date if that's not the issue. If there's others in the community, organizations and such who are presenters, organizational representatives, and they have no problem meeting, then I guess it's to some extent your prerogative.
So, okay, well then probably, I mean, we have enough of a private sector, nonprofit sector up here. We can put together a meeting. And maybe since that's what we've done for years, we'll just stay with it and we won't invite any county people. But we will tap you for our November senior symposium.
Yep, glad to be there in November. Sorry, I'll be out of town in October, or at your October meeting.
Okay, thanks, Tom.
Yep, thanks for that.
Thanks, Tom. Last on my list, I think we have a couple folks from West Valley Community Council, Tom and Damon. Any updates from West Valley or questions for the commissioners?
Well, I have one. During our meeting in September, we talked about this bridge between the frontage road and Marion Street there in Frenchtown. So who do I get a hold of there to get that bridge swept? There's a lot of kids traffic on it and bikes and skateboards, and I know it's not appropriate as a crossing, but we do have youth using it to go to school and come from school.
How about if we have our Public Works Director give you a call?
That would be fine.
Okay. We are on it.
And
Do we?
his name is
Shane Stack.
Stack.
Yeah. S-T-A-C-K.
Damon, I'll have Shane reach out to you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I got another question too. When will the county start redoing these roads that are turning into pretty bad washboards? These dirt roads.
I think that is another excellent question that we'll have Shane address when he gives you a call.
Sorry, Tom, did you ask that first question too? About the bridge? Did you ask that first question
I would like
bridge?
we talked about it during our council meeting, and we'd like to get it swept.
Okay.
There's a lot of gravel on both sides, and between, at least get the frost line to the dirt swept out of there, so these kids on their bikes and whatever walking don't have to walk in the gravel or walk on the road that's not covered with the frost line.
Is this Tom or Damon speaking?
Between the dirt and the white in order to go across that bridge and on both sides of the road, both sides of the freeway. So.
Yeah, Tom, sorry about that. I thought it was Damon originally speaking, but I'll have Shane reach out to you about both of those questions. And I have your number, so.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Damon, did you have any updates or questions?
I have nothing significant to report. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anybody else with any additional questions or comments or updates that I missed?
All right. Thanks, Violet. Josh or Juanita, anything you want to add by way of closing remarks?
It's dinner time.
Exactly. Well
Thank
said.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Great meeting. Appreciate it.
We'll see you next month.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Good deal.
Bye.